Hello and good day, everybody, and welcome back to Complicated Relationships Reddit Stories. Hope you guys are safe and healthy. Now, let's see what the story is about today. In today's story, OP says, ex-wife won't stop trying to contact me, and I'm totally confused. It has been over 6 months since D-Day, 5 months since divorce, and I still need some advice. I don't have enough time to tell my whole story, but here is what I can tell you. We've been married for 5 years and we had a great life. We had made a choice not to have kids until we were both 35. Long story short, I pretty much caught my wife with her AP in our bedroom. I had been pretty much clear about my views on infidelity right from when we started dating. I had told her very clearly that cheating was a complete no-no for me. I stayed calm through the entire ordeal. I asked her to get dressed. I called up her elder sister who lived in a nearby town and asked her to come and pick my wife up. I blocked her on all platforms and talked to my lawyer about the divorce proceedings. I drove back to my house the next day and she immediately threw herself onto me and started crying profusely. She wanted me to give her a chance to explain herself. Even though I did not really want to hear any of it, my answer would be still divorce, whether she did it 100 times or just once. I sat down with her and asked her some questions. My first question was it an emotional or a physical one? She seems to be stupefied for about 5 or 6 seconds before tears started streaming down her face and whined about how could I even think that she would have an emotional affair with someone other than me. She promised me that it was a purely physical one. My second question was, were you unsatisfied in our marriage in any way? She claimed she wasn't. She was incredibly happy with both our intimacy and our financial status. What was the reason then? I don't know, she said, and absolutely broke down. She got down on her knees and said she feels disgust with herself. She said she was going through a lot since she wasn't doing well at the job and she wanted to validate her own importance in her mind. She often talked to me about her job too, and I supported her wholeheartedly and she was going to therapy for it. Even though I did not understand her reason, I did not poke much into it. I asked, how many times were you physically involved? She told me it was 3 times of physical contact and she did not allow him to kiss her. I don't know if that's supposed to make me feel better about it. With that, I was done. I told her that I wanted a divorce. Surprisingly, she did not say anything, just nodded and went into the guest room and locked herself with her sister. Unfortunately, before I could serve her the divorce papers, our district went into lockdown and travel between districts were prohibited. Thus, in an unfortunate turn of events, it seems I would need to spend a whole week with my wife in the same house and I could not even file for divorce because the courts were closed. Anyway, I was not having that BS. I decided to move out and live in my neighbor's house instead, and that helped. I would still see her every day, dark circles, swollen eyes, and she looked nothing like before. One day she got too drunk and I heard her shouting in her room, asking me, I disgust you, don't I? You can't even look at my face. And she repeated that the whole night. Another day I bumped into her talking to someone else on the phone, and she immediately started freaking out and screamed, I was not talking to him, I promise. It was just my colleague from work. A while later, she seems to realize that it was a mistake and walked away without another word. A week later, she moved out and I moved back into my house. I got done with the divorce a month later. Strangely, she did not demand anything from the settlement. 6 months later, she would still text me and call me sometimes. She once drove over 50 miles to see me when I was ill with COVID. I have not been doing very well. I do still love her. The way she was truly remorseful of her mistakes sometimes made me feel for her again. But other times, I just want to cut her off completely and start afresh. I don't know if I would be able to love or marry again, but I did get along with a few hookups in the last 2 weeks or so, and to be honest, it does feel better. I don't know if I can move on if we keep talking. I have told her not to talk to me, but she does not listen. Should I just block her everywhere? I really do not want to hurt her, but she has not left me any option. What should I do? Thanks for listening so far. We have the update coming up, but before that, please like the video so this video will reach more and more beautiful people like you. Here is the update. So, I did exactly what I wanted to do. I called her up and told her that I wish to completely go no contact for a few months. For a few seconds, I heard nothing from her end, long enough to ask her if she even heard me. She said that she did hear me and started fumbling for words once again. I explained to her that it was not any fault of her, it was just me finding it difficult to move on with my life if we kept talking. She said she understood and promised that she will not call me again. Before hanging up, she asked me if I was planning to completely cut her off. I told her that I was not planning to do so at the moment, but I might change my decision in the future. She told me it was alright, that I deserved to do whatever I needed to get over it, and told me that she would try to find a new job during these months. With that, I bid her farewell and proceeded to block her on all platforms. A few hours later, her sister called me up. She told me that I had made a good decision, especially my ex-wife needed this NC period too. She only did a part-time job, hardly ever went out, and spent the entire day going through old pictures. Thus, at least for the moment, I feel I have made the right decision. A lot of people have messaged me asking me several questions that left untouched in the original post. Here, I like to clear out some. Number 1. How long has the affair been going on? According to her, the first time they slept together was when she went out for a work-related trip to another city, about a month before D-Day. She claims there was no physical tension between them before this trip. But on the other hand, they have been working together in the same office for about 3 months. So, I really can't tell if she's lying. Number 2. How did she behave in the days before D-Day and immediately after it? In the few weeks before D-Day, when her relationship was ongoing, I did not really notice anything out of the ordinary. I am generally a perceptive individual. The usual signs of a secret relationship, such as increased conflict, anger, blaming, trying to keep the phone close by at all times, I did not notice any of it with her. In fact, she only grew quiet every day. I thought it was because of the problems she was facing at work and had a good talk with her. She hugged me and cried for several minutes, and I did my best to comfort her. We also had a lot of intimacy in that week, as we usually did every week. I feel kind of embarrassed saying this, but we did a role play as her as the criminal and me as the policeman who caught her and then had been forceful on her. It was her idea. In hindsight, it does make some kind of sense now, though it kind of messes me up. Apart from that, I noticed nothing out of the ordinary. On the day of discovery, she was dazed throughout the ordeal. It seemed her brain was switched off. She just looked at me with wide eyes, tears streaming down, and just nodded when I told her to wait for her elder sister while I left back to work. Later, her sister called me and told me that the ex-wife was nowhere to be found. I was preparing to go out and search for her, when her sister called again and told me that she found her sister walking around in the neighborhood. She was either searching for me or her AP. I just don't know which. At her sister's house, she apparently tried to hurt herself, but then calmed down and had some rest. Number 3. Is she still talking to AP? This is one point I failed to mention in my original post. She quit her job immediately after D-Day. According to her, she could not bear to see the AP every day. I had anticipated that she would use this opportunity to ask me for a heavy stipulation from the divorce, which made it even weirder that she didn't. Number 4. Was she really talking to AP on the phone when you saw her outside? Frankly, I don't know and I haven't asked. Number 5. How was your relationship after the divorce? We did have a NC period about a week after the divorce. Later, she called me up and asked me if I could consider keeping a friendly relationship with her. I saw no harm in it, so I agreed. We agreed that we would not talk about the divorce or our married life. We just asked about our work and about how we were doing. As for the frequency of contact, I would say minimum of 1 or 2 texts per day maybe, and sometimes none for days. Sometimes we talk on the phone, but not for long periods. We never met physically. She once came over when I was ill, but was not allowed to actually meet me physically because I was in the isolation ward. Number 6. Have you ever tried therapy? Of course, I have been in therapy since D-Day. My ex went to a therapist for the first 2 months after the divorce, but then stopped for no reason. Some people in the comment section seems to misunderstand my original post. They kept asking me to consider reconciliation. I would say my original post was about whether I should block her or not, and not about reconciliation. I made the decision not to reconcile long time ago, and she has accepted it. It's not about how much she regrets and mourns over it. I'm simply incapable of trusting her again. Here is some good advice by a community member, West Coast Happy. Since you are adamant about not reconciling, then really there isn't any reason to have contacts with her. Going complete NC will help both of you to move on. You really can't stay friends as neither of you has fully healed. Maybe sometimes in the future, but not now. End of the story. Thank you all for listening, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Please like and share the story if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when we upload the next video. Take care.